بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم قال الله تعالى في كتابه المجيد والفرقان الحميد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يوسف أعرض عن هذا واستغفري لذنبك إنك كنت من الخاطئين صدق الله العظيم. So we were busy discussing the incident of Yusuf alayhi salatu wassalam with the minister's wife Ra'il or Zulaykha. She tried to seduce him, entice him, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala proclaimed his innocence on the basis of a witness from her own side. وَشَهِدَ شَاهِدٌ مِّنْ أَهْلِهَا. It was from her own family. To the extent that the minister, the Aziz, Itfir or Qitfir, he could not deny, he had to accept. And then he says, إِنَّ كَيْدَ كُنَّ عَظِيمٌ. Oh, you guys, at times you can be ever so cunning, you can be ever so manipulative, always gaslighting. And he had come to the realization. But this is the weakness of man, and this is how man works, and this is how human nature develops. He knows it's his own wife who plotted, it's his own wife who planned, she's the one who seduced, she's the one who invited, she's the one who is gaslighting, she's the one who's manipulating and lying the situation. But then he says, Yusuf a'rid an hada. Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, ignore this, turn away from this, put this aside, keep it on the down low, keep it hush. Why? Because an accusation and attack on my family is indirectly an attack on myself. If someone is pointing fingers at my wife, indirectly he's also pointing fingers at myself. لا تلمزوا أنفسكم. Don't put the blame and don't find the faults and don't put the blemish on yourselves. How do you put the blemish on yourselves? Because when you point fingers at your brother, indirectly you're pointing fingers at yourself. When you enter your houses, فَسَلِّمُوا عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِكُمْ. Then give salam to yourself. How are you going to give salam to yourself? Because when you give salam to your family who's inhabiting your house, indirectly you're giving salam to yourself. And these are from the subtleties of the Quran. He said, don't, Yusuf, أعرض عن هذا. Just leave this, ignore it, turn it aside, put it away. And then he addresses his wife, وَاسْتَغْفِرِي لِذَنْبِكِ. And seek forgiveness for your crime. Seek permission and seek repentance for the sin. The Mufassirun had written previously that it was known that this woman, she was not from the believers. So then who is she seeking repentance and forgiveness from? The two opinions are, she is seeking forgiveness from her husband. Seek forgiveness on the basis of this immorality, disloyalty, infidelity that you are displaying in this. And number two, seek forgiveness to Yusuf alayhi salatu wassalam. He was a servant, a boy who was living in our home. He displayed nothing but the utmost best of character, mannerisms, etiquette. He was obedient. He was ever listening. And this is how you repaid his kindness. And this is how you reciprocated his good mannerisms. وَاسْتَغْفِرِي لِذَنْبِكِ. Seek forgiveness for this crime that you have committed. إِنَّكِ كُنْتِ مِنَ الْخَاطِئِينَ. Verily, you are from the evildoers, from the wrongdoers, those who are in error, those who are in mistake. But as life goes on, you could try and do your best to keep it hush-hush. You could try your best to keep it on down low and not proclaim it, not expose it, not spread it. But the happenings of life is, as try as you might, it ever so happens that it just somehow leaks and it somehow spreads and rumors turn about. So this rumor, this incident, this tale, this story, it spread out until it had become شغل البلد, حديث البلد, the talk of the town. Everyone has now heard about this, and gossip and rumor is spreading. And it is so sad to say that it is ever prevalent in our communities that a family gathers together around the dinner table and the only conversation that they're discussing is gossip. They're only ever talking about other people. It's the only thing that they can find. Or a group of young women or young men gathered together. It's recreational, it's an invitation, it's a dinner invite. They're eating, they're chatting, and all they're ever doing is backbiting other people. All they're ever doing is speaking about the faults of other people. وَيْلٌ لِكُلِّ هُمَزَةٍ لُمَزَةٍ. Woe be to every person who speaks bad to your face and speaks bad behind you. Woe be to every person who's done your ghiba and done your backbiting, and they're just gossiping and not even paying any mind. In the incident of Ifk, when Abdullah bin Ubay as-Salul heard the accusation at Aisha radiallahu anha, then Abu Ayyub al-Ansari radiallahu anhu, he comes home and his wife says, هل سمعت هذا القول? Are you listening to what's happening in town? Have you given any ear to the rumors that are spreading about? Abu Ayyub al-Ansari radiallahu an, بدون تفكر ولا تردد, without even moment's notice, hesitation, or any time to think. He says, I will not entertain this discussion. I do not want to listen to this discussion. And you as my wife will not speak regarding this. And Aisha radiallahu anha, as the wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, will never have perpetrated this crime. I don't want to listen to this gossip. I don't want to listen to these rumors. But today that's all we want to listen to. وقال نسوة في المدينة امرأة العزيز تراود فتاها عن نفسه. So the women of the town, the women of the city, Niswatul Aziz, the Imra'atul Aziz, they said, oh, the wife of the minister, تراود فتاها عن نفسه. She seduced her slave boy, she seduced her servant, and she tried to commit this crime. Wow, this is unheard of. We had spoken previously that when the minister, when the wife, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was referring to this relationship, He said Sayyidaha, her master. It was a term of respect. Also in this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala nevertheless imposes the same type of injunction and the same subtleties in the ayah, that He didn't refer to Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam as ghulam, but He used a term of respect, fatah, a young boy, a young lad, in the meaning of servant. So Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, for example, when he was speaking to Yusha bin Nun rahimahullah, he said, وَقَالَ مُوسَى لِفَتَاهُ أي لِغُلَامِهِ. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for respect, He says fatah, this young boy, this young person. He says, Imra'atul Aziz turawidu fataha an nafsah. She tried to seduce her servant, the person, Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam. قَدْ شَغَفَهَا حُبًّا أي دخل حبه في شغاف قلبها. His love has become ever deepening in her heart. She's infatuated, she's fantasizing, she has a crush. It's rooted, it's embedded, it's deep. قَدْ شَغَفَهَا حُبًّا إِنَّا لَنَرَاهَا فِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. Oh, verily we see her in clear error, in clear mistake, in clear misguidance. Why? One, she is a woman of prominence. ذَاتُ مَنْصَبٍ وَجَمَالٍ. She is a woman of respect and honor. And her husband similarly is a man of prime position, power, respect, and authority. How could she be doing this to her husband? And two, if she was to do this crime and she was looking elsewhere, why would she look for a slave boy? How could a person at this high position stoop down low to a person who's a slave? He's a servant, he's an abd, he's a ghulam. Why would she commit this crime with him? This is unheard of. We've never seen such a thing. The minister's wife stooping to the level of a servant. Wow, ajib. So this woman, now she's hearing what they're plotting, and she's hearing what the rumors are going about, and she's hearing the different accusations and the talk of the town. So she comes up with her own ideology, and she comes up with her own plan. فَلَمَّا سَمِعَتْ بِمَكْرِهِنَّ. When she heard their plots and plans, their discussions, أَرْسَلَتْ إِلَيْهِنَّ. She calls for them, she invites them, she brings them to her house. وَأَعْتَدَتْ لَهُنَّ مُتَّكِئًا. And she prepares اتَّكِئَ يَتَّكِئُ اتِّكَاءً, to recline. She prepares for them places to recline, a seating area, a place to enjoy, a place to recline, sofa, seating. مُتَّكِئِينَ فِيهَا عَلَى الْأَرَائِكِ. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the people of Jannah, they will be reclining on their cushions and couches. In the verses that we recited in Surah Taha in Isha, then Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, he says, أَتَوَكَّأُ عَلَيْهَا وَأَهُشُّ بِهَا عَلَى غَنَمِي وَلِيَ فِيهَا مَآرِبُ أُخْرَى أي جمع مأربة. He says, I lean on it, I recline on it, I take support on it, and I use it to knock the branches to feed my animals, and it has many other benefits. Prophet ﷺ says, لا أحب أن آكل متكئا. I don't like that I'm eating while I'm reclining. Prophet ﷺ, when he was speaking, ألا أدلكم, should I not inform you about the greatest of crimes? He said, بلى يا رسول الله, of course. He says, الإشراك بالله وعقوق الوالدين وكان متكئا. The Prophet ﷺ was reclining. فجلس, then he sits up. ألا وقول الزور ألا وقول الزور ألا وشهادة الزور. He was leaning and then he sat up. So she prepared these places to recline. وأعتدت لهن متكئا وآتت كل واحدة منهن سكينا. وآتت كل واحدة منهن سكينا. And she gave each and every one of them a knife. سكينة, a knife. جمعه سكاكين. She gave them a knife. So it is not introduced in the ayah what they were eating, what they were cutting, but the Mufassirun write from historical narrations and given the incidences of the discussion in this verse, they were cutting some fruit. وَآتَتْ كُلَّ وَاحِدَةٍ مِّنْهُنَّ السِّكِينَ. They were cutting up some fruit. Now Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, he did not know of this plan. He did not know what she was plotting, what was in her mind, what was the rumors outside, what she proposed to do. He was oblivious, unaware to what her plan may be, what deception she could be plotting. So then she tells Yusuf, وَقَالَتِ خُرُجَ عَلَيْهِنَّ. Now, you might not understand how this could take place until you fathom and comprehend the fact that Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam is a servant in this household. So as a servant, it's his job to serve. It's his job that when the master tells him, or if there's a banquet, he's going to be serving food, or he's going to be introduced or greeting the guests, or he's going to have some role to play. وَقَالَتِ خُرُجَ عَلَيْهِنْ. So then Zulaykha or Ra'il, she tells Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, go to the guests. أُخْرُجْ عَلَيْهِمْ. Come out to the guests. And this is not something that is far-fetched. Of course, he's going to be serving them. He's going to be greeting them. This is his dutiful job as the servant. وَقَالَتِ خُرُجَ عَلَيْهِمْ. And he thinks he's just doing his own duties. He doesn't know that there was a sinister plot. فَلَمَّا رَأَيْنَهُ أَكْبَرْنَهُ وَقَطَّعْنَ أَيْدِيَهُنَّ. When these women, they see Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, أكبرنه. They're infatuated, they're mesmerized, they're tantalized, they're taken aback. They're like, wow, أكبرنه وقطعن أيديهن. And as they're cutting the fruit, then they slice through their fruit, nay, they slice through their hand. وقطعن أيديهن. They begin cutting their hand. وقلنا حاشا لله. And they proclaim, it's a statement, may Allah protect us. قلنا حاشا لله. ما هذا بشرا. This could not be human. إن هذا إلا ملك كريم. This could be nothing except divine, angelic, celestial. إن هذا إلا ملك كريم. This could not be a human. This has to be some divine celestial body. This is an angel. So they're all sitting reclining. She had given them a knife. They're cutting the fruit. She tells Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, go to the guest. Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam comes out. As soon as they see him, they're just infatuated. They're mesmerized from the onslaught. وَقَطَّعْنَ أَيْدِيَهُنْ. Wow. And they cut their hands. وَقُلْنَا حَاشَ لِلَّهِ. Whoa. May Allah protect us. It's a statement of exclamation, astonishment. مَا هَذَا بَشَرًا. This is not a human. إِنْ هَذَا إِلَّا مَلَكٌ كَرِيمٌ. This has to be some celestial body, some angel. And we know from the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where he says that the occupants of Jannah, they will be given the height of Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, the age of Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, the mannerisms of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and the physical appearance of Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam. Jurdun, murdun, bidun, ji'adun. Oh, they're going to be fair in complexion, curly in hair, no facial hair on their skin, beautiful in complexion. And the women, nuruhunna min anwarillah, their nur is going to be straight from the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has in store for the occupants of Jannah. Isma hada bashara in hada illa malakun kareem. So then, at that instant, Zulaykha, she capitalized on that moment. قالت فذلكن الذي لمتنني فيه. قالت فذلكن الذي لمتنني فيه. Oh, لام يلوم, to blame. That is the one you guys were blaming me about. You said, إِنَّا لَنَرَاهَا فِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. We see her in clear error and clear mistake. This is the one you guys were blaming me about. قالت فذلكن الذي لمتنني فيه. This is the one you guys were blaming me about. Now, one of the Mufassirun, he writes so beautifully that put aside the sinister motive of Zulaykha and just for a moment take an alternate path. Zulaykha, she was accused and she was at the butt end of all of this ridicule from the people of the town. Why? Because she was doing something they had not heard of. Now Zulaykha or Ra'il, instead of plotting and planning to negate their accusation or to somehow avert and divert their accusation, her plot and plan was, I'm going to introduce them to the same thing that I fell into. Follow along with me. Her plan was, I'm not going to remove the accusation. I'm not going to get rid of the accusation. I'm not going to act like it's not true. I'm going to establish it. I'm going to make it in such a way that they're also established in the same thing. On an alternate path, on the backside, on the reverse side of this, the Mufassir writes that when those people outside looking into Islam, they heard all of these accusations. Oh, Islam, it's a backward religion. Oh, the Prophet ﷺ, he was full of misogyny. And they have all of these, they have a lack of feminine rights. And you look overseas, and these women, they have to cover from head to toe. And who would want to be adorned and dressed in such a manner? And oh, it's a religion of terrorism, and it's a religion of this and that, and all their different accusations that they hurl. Instead of taking a plan that is counterproductive, where then you start insulting them and say, oh, but look at your religion and look at this. Why not invite them to enjoy the beauty of Islam as well? Why not invite them to enjoy the beauty of the Quran as well? Why not invite them to enjoy the same person that they're saying, oh, he's full of misogyny and this and that? Why not invite them to enjoy the beautiful, perfect, pinnacle character of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? شهد الأنام بفضله حتى العدا وما شهدت بفضله إلا الأعداء. He says, oh, when every single person had to accept the beauty of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and there is no definition of beauty except that the enemy also proclaims his bounty and virtue. إِلَّا الْأَعْدَاء. Even the enemies had to say what a wonderful man this Prophet ﷺ was. He says, why don't you also invite them to do the same? She said, oh, فَذَلِكُلَّ الَّذِي لُمْتُنَّنِي فِيهِ. This is the one you guys were blaming me about. وَلَقَدْ رَاوَدْتُهُ عَنْ نَفْسِهِ فَاسْتَعْصَمْ. Up until then, she had been declining, denying. Oh, Yusuf ﷺ did it. Oh, he was the one who tried to commit this with me. At this point, she said, why am I lying? Why am I trying to manipulate? Let me just accept the situation. وَلَقَدْ رَاوَدْتُهُ عَنْ نَفْسِهِ. I was the one who intended to seduce him. فَاسْتَعْصَمْ. But he refused. He prevented. He refrained. ولقد راودته عن نفسي فاستعصم ولئن لم يفعل ما آمره ليسجنن وليكون من الصاغرين أي من الأذلاء. And if he does not obey and comply with what I will order him to, then he will be imprisoned, incarcerated, or he will be from those who are lowly. أي من الصاغرين من الأذلاء, from the bottom feeders. He will be from those who are disgraced. Even though it is not given in the ayah. From historical narrations, the Mufassirun say that at this moment, when the women of the community were also introduced to the beauty of Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, then they began to also motivate and also inspire Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam to do the same action as her. They were saying, oh, she's such a good master to you, and she is such a woman of prominence. This is an honor for you, Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam. You should be overwhelmed and happy to oblige to this request. You should want to listen to her. You should want to commit this act. And now they're also on the same level, at the same motivation as her. Now they have the same plot. When it's just one, you can refuse. When it's two, it becomes more difficult. When it becomes a jama'ah and a gathering and a group, now the intensity has ever become more intensified. And now the problems have ever become more problematic. She says, if he refuses, we'll put him in jail. وَلَيَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الصَّاغِرِينَ. And this is the life of a Nabi. Ever, and especially Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam. At every corner, he thought, oh, I had just gotten out. My innocence had just been proclaimed. And now he's dealing with this. And the response of a Nabi, قال رب السجن أحب إلي مما يدعونني إليه وإلا تصرف عني كيدهن أصب إليهن وأكن من الجاهلين. قال, he says, Rabbi, oh Allah, السجن أحب إلي مما يدعونني إليه. To be incarcerated, to be in jail, this is more beloved and a higher preference for me than to what despicable action they're calling me towards. To be in difficulty is more pleasurable than to be in sin. To be in jail, I have a higher love than to be in vice. To be in this whatever hardship and turmoil and turbulence they could hurl at me, I would rather take that onslaught than take the onslaught of ever perpetrating this crime. السجن أحب إلي مما يدعونني إليه وإلا تصرف عني كيدهن أصب إليهن وأكن من الجاهلين. And if you, O my Lord, you don't divert this away from me, you don't turn this sin away from me, and you don't keep me steadfast, then I will fall into it and I will be from the ignorant people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in previous verses, throughout the whole previous page, He proclaimed the beautiful character of Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam. كَذَلِكَ لِنَصْرِفَ عَنْهُ السُّوءَ وَالْفَحْشَاءَ. We have diverted and turned away any evil, lewdness and crookedness from Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam. Furthermore, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala proclaimed his innocence, وَشَهِدَ شَاهِدٌ مِّنْ أَهْلِهَا. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is narrating how Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam was perfect in character. But the humility of Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam carries him to have this response. وَإِلَّا تَصْرِفْ عَنِّي كَيْدَهُنْ أَصْبُ إِلَيْهِنَّ وَأَكُمْ مِنَ الْجَاهِلِينَ. This is the humility of a Nabi, that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put the feathers to his cap, and when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him the accomplishment already, and you have already achieved, كَذَلِكَ لِنَصْرِفَ عَنْهُ السُّوءَ وَالْفَحْشَاءَ. You have already been diverted from ignorance and from any lewdness and crookedness, then still it is from the humility of a Nabi that he says, and if you don't turn me away, I will fall into it, I will be from the wrongdoers. From the prophetic narrations, the dua of the Prophet ﷺ, he says, Allahumma khud binawasiyati ila al-birri wa taqwa. Oh Allah, take me from the forelock to righteousness and good deeds. Don't ever think for a moment that if you're left to your own devices, you will continue to remain in good. It is only by the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we remain in hidayah. رَبَّنَا لَا تُزِغْ قُلُوبَنَا بَعْدَ إِذْ هَدَيْتَنَا. You had hidayah, your hidayah can be taken. You were on the right path, it could be taken. It is only from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, number one. Number two, once you've understood this, then remain humble. The Prophet ﷺ said, Allahumma ja'alni fi ayni saghira wa fi a'yun al-nasi kabira. In the eyes of the people, I'm a prophet. In the eyes of the people, I'm Fasih, Baligh, Adib, Bashir. I'm from the people of Quraysh, and I have all these feathers to my cap and all of these accomplishments. Don't ever let it get to me. وَفِي عَيْنِي صَغِيرًا. In my eyes, keep me humble, keep me lowly, keep me to the ground, and make me from those who are from the mutawadi'. Be from amongst the people. رفعه الله. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us understanding and tawfiq. اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت، وعافنا فيمن عافيت، وتولنا فيمن توليت، وبارك لنا فيما أعطيت، وقنا واصرف عنا شر ما قضيت، فإنك تقضي ولا يقضى عليك، إنه لا يعز من عاديت ولا يذل من واليت، تبارك ربنا وتعاليت. نستغفرك ربنا ونتوب إليك. اللهم اهدنا واهد بنا واهد الناس جميعا، واجعلنا سببا لمن اهتدى. اللهم قنا عذابك يوم تبعث عبادك. اللهم اجرنا من النار، اللهم اجرنا من النار، اللهم اجرنا من النار. اللهم انا نسألك الجنة، اللهم انا نعوذ بك من عذاب القبر وعذاب الحشر وعذاب الدين، واحشرنا يوم القيامة مع الأبرار. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه، وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم أحسن ختامنا وتوفنا على كلمة لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله. تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم، وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. آمين يا رب العالمين.